the actual threshold that you need to have impacts below is much higher on the moto standard. So essentially what that means is it's an easier standard to pass.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. For today's video, I'm in California in the Specialized headquarters and we are going to be talking about safety and helmets. As you know, I ride for propane bikes. So the bikes I use are propane, but at the end of 2021, I was looking for a partnership for helmets. And funny enough, Alex, which is in charge of the helmet category at Specialized, messaged me and basically told me that he liked what I was doing and was curious to know if I'd be interested on riding the Specialized helmet. So the first thing I did was to go to the bike shop in town in Squamish, pick up a few helmets. So I got the All Dissident, a Tactic and an Ambush, and I made sure that the fit was good for me. I'm a size small and the fit was perfect. And so after that, we had a conversation, we made a deal happen. Propane was kind enough to welcome the deal, which was really important for me. And funny enough, Alex sent out a bunch of helmets to the folks at Propane. So David, which is the CEO and founder, is riding with a Tactic helmet, as well as some of the other people there. And I think it's really cool from both brands, Specialized and Propane, because as a professional rider, career can be really short. It's very unstable. So having those opportunities is great, but also because with what I do on the channel, I manage everything by myself, and it's really important to promote products that I truly believe in and products and brands that I would want to buy and use if I was a regular customer. So pretty stoked on that. Now let's move to the next part. So I've got Alex Jerome with me. What's your title at Specialized and what do you do?
I'm the category leader here for helmets at Specialized, and our team takes product from brief design ideation all the way through prototyping development to a final commercialized product.
Awesome. And so Alex is basically an expert about mountain bike helmets, and it's going to be great because there is a lot of misconception but also questions from fans about helmets, and we're going to try to reply to the most common questions. Let's get started. So first question, obviously there is a ton of helmets on the market, but what are the most important things to consider when buying a helmet?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think first and foremost, maybe deciding kind of what experience you're going after. If you're a road rider, obviously looking for a road helmet. Mountain helmets, you have lots of options these days, whether it's just a classic half shell to a lightweight full face or a full face. Getting the right helmet for you, or at least the right type of helmet for you first and foremost, and then fit and comfort. I mean, you want the helmet to fit close and snug and be comfortable for you. So figuring out the right size, getting good adjustment on your fit system and webbing.
Yeah, and most brands, have a sizing chart from extra small all the way to large, extra large, double extra large, but it's usually the diameter of your head in centimeters. So if you know the diameter of your head, obviously that helps to narrow down the choices, but then there is no better thing than trying the helmet on and seeing what fits you best, what's more comfortable, just like trying a pair of shoes.
Yeah, I would say every kind of brand or manufacturer has a slightly different head form, so finding the one that really fits well for you and is comfortable. And when I say fit system, not just obviously tighten that down, but a lot of helmets these days you can adjust the fit system up and down, and then the webbing as well, just to get centered over your ears. So making those fine-tuning adjustments can really make a helmet fit and feel more comfortable for you.
Yeah, and some of the full-face helmet, you can also adjust the cheek pads, which is very important. So there is a lot to consider, but I guess fit is the biggest thing. Since all helmets should pass a certain certification in order to be sold, do all helmets provide the same protection?
Yeah, so every helmet that is sold on a retail floor or online has passed a global safety certification. For instance, North America, we would be talking about something like CPSC. But you don't really know how those helmets performed during the test. Nowadays, we do have the luxury of folks like Virginia Tech, where you can go on their website and actually, they do a ton of testing and third-party validation. They're a neutral facility that just tests helmets in the same way every time. and you can kind of see where helmet models rank up against each other. They actually do testing with high-speed linear impacts, low-speed, and rotational, and then they give an overall score per model. So although when you go into a retailer, you can't really see how different models performed against each other in terms of the certification, you can, however, go on VT's website and actually check it out and see if you can get a better understanding of the model maybe that you're looking for, where it kind of ranks.
And so when you develop the helmet, how difficult it is to pass that, that limit to get that certification?
Yeah, it depends on the helmet and it depends on kind of the feature set that you're trying to achieve, but different certifications have different thresholds. Internally at Specialized, we obviously try to maintain a threshold much below what would actually pass the certification. So it's really up to the brand on how strict they want to be on themselves or if they're just trying to pass the certification.
How often should you change your helmet?
That's a super difficult question to answer. I think it's definitely unique, individual case by case, but some things to look at. Obviously, if you have a big incident or a big off and you crack your helmet, you should replace that instantly. The helmet really is there to crumple, compress, break, to reduce the energy that's coming to you. But there are also some other issues that you might see. Like for instance, we see a lot of riders that if they're spraying chemicals on, like some sunscreen or bug spray, that will start to eat away at the foam. So just keeping an eye on that, trying not to have too many chemicals in contact with like the foam of the helmet. That'll extend the life. But if you're using the helmet a lot, we usually say about 3 to 5 years, depending on the use. But if you're riding multiple times a week and you're getting those UV rays and also throwing on some sunscreen and stuff, just keep an eye out for it. But that definitely, obviously, erodes the foam over time.
And I guess if you're someone that's really sweaty, you live in a part of the world that's hot,
Totally.
and you're dripping sweat, obviously, I think it would wear out the pads, the foam faster than.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. If you get to a point where things are worn out from just general use, pads, especially from sweat over a couple seasons, it's probably time to replace your helmet if you're riding a lot. At the end of the day, the helmet being there for you is probably worth the price of replacing it in case of an incident.
And that brings us to another question, which is how should you clean a helmet? Because you mentioned about not using any chemical products. So what's the best way to clean your helmet?
Yeah, I would also on that one just avoid any sort of harsh chemicals. Honestly, just rinsing it off with warm water and something like not very harsh, like a Dawn dish soap or something like that, and just kind of hand washing your pad kit and rinsing off the helmet. That's going to give you the most life out of it. You just want to avoid any sort of harsh chemicals.
Do you need to replace your helmet every time you crash? Or I guess every time you hit your head?
Yeah, that's a super tough question because, obviously having a crash doesn't always mean that you're hitting your head. Again, super case by case. Really, I think the main thing for folks to think about is just taking the time to look at the helmet, making sure there's no signs of wear on the outside of the helmet, whether it's a crack or crumple, and then definitely looking on the inside as well. And I think folks sometimes forget to look under, whether it be pad kits or a MIPS solution in there, but just taking the time to see if there's any sort of cracks or compressions. At the end of the day, it's very similar to a car with crumple zones. Like helmets are designed to compress, crack, and crumple to reduce energy going to the rider. So just taking a good look inside and outside and making sure there's nothing like that. If you don't see anything, most likely you're probably pretty good and you didn't actually touch the ground with the helmet. But yeah, taking the time to do a good, proper analyze.
Do Specialized offer like a crash replacement type of thing for helmet?
Yeah, it's dependent on the region of the world you live in, but you should, if you crash and you need a replacement, you should definitely reach out to Specialized Rider Care and see what they can sort you out with.
Talking about crashing, do you study the helmets of athletes after a crash?
Yeah, we always try to, if someone has a big one, we try to get their helmets back. For instance, this is actually one of Finn Isle's helmets. It's cracked right here near the chin bar and obviously has quite a bit of other stuff going on with it. But yeah, we always try to get helmets back from athletes, be it on the road side of things, mountain side of things, and try to understand what happened with the impact and where it's affecting the helmet.
And I guess how to prevent that from the future, or how to make it even safer.
It just gives us more insight with each model. And we also get a lot of that feedback from regular folks that purchase the helmets. Actually, I have one right here. This is a tactic we got a couple weeks ago. This individual obviously had a big wreck. Sometimes they send a note to us, but it just gives us an opportunity to see what happened with their helmet as well.
What's written on the note?
The note for this one, Specialized team. I'm writing this note to say thank you. Thank you so much for all the time and effort you put into designing quality products. It's pretty lengthy after that too, but...
that must feel good because that's a thank you to you, basically.
Yeah, I think the team always feels good when they get stuff like that. I truly believe I owe my life to your hard work. Yeah, not bad.
That's great. Well, hopefully I never have to send you my helmets to check out and study.
Yeah, we're hoping none of those come in.
How do you know if a helmet fits you well?
Yeah, so that one's super personal. As we kind of discussed earlier, I think finding a brand or a model that has, you know, a base head form that fits really comfortable for you. At the end of the day, you're going to be spending maybe a couple hours in it, so you don't want any sort of hot spots. And then just making sure you can get the fit system adjusted to where you want it, and then also being able to adjust the webbing to where you want it underneath your ears and chin as well. And I think at that point, if you can snug everything down nicely and you're still feeling comfortable, pretty much gives you a good base fit. And then, yeah, making sure you take into account whatever kind of eyewear you're using as well, be it glasses or goggles.
Yeah, I think it's really important for me to try the helmet, especially the full face with the goggles, because obviously the space you have on the front has to match whatever space the goggles have. So there is a lot to take in consideration. And another thing that Alex and his team has designed for the tactic helmet and the ambush that's behind, you got that little opening here where you can put your glasses right below the visor when you climb up. That way they don't get sweaty, and they also get protected when it's rainy and you are climbing up the mountain. So that's a pretty cool feature. Why do mountain biking helmets, full face or half shelf, have a visor?
Yeah, I mean, I think that one's twofold answer. Obviously, aesthetics and style is a huge piece of it, but they do offer quite a bit of other helpful pieces. Number one, sun protection. Obviously, you can rain protection as well there. And then I think, you know, a lot of times you're going through some trails that maybe are a little bit thicker and you might have some tree branches or brush, and they can kind of help knock some things out of the way as well.
What happens when either, for example, with the Dissident or with the Tactic, if you crash and hit basically your visor on the ground, like could that do like leverage and potentially injure your neck?
Yeah, definitely, and that's something we pay a lot of attention to, and is key for us. We want to make sure that we have visors that break away quite easily in any sort of wreck. So on all of our helmets that we have visors on, we want to make sure that those are able to break away pretty freely during any sort of incident.
Since the helmets are heavily tested and designed for World Cup downhill racing, obviously the Dissident, do Loic Bruni and Finn Iles and Jordan Williams have longer visor for when it's raining?
Yeah, we actually do make them a kind of custom clear visor or a rain visor when they put it on for the rain. It does a couple things. Obviously, it extends the visor, and then it also plugs this air port here, so kind of moisture and mud doesn't get inside the helmet. Yeah.
And is it something that anyone can buy?
Not commercially available, just for our athletes and teams that are on the World Cup circuit. Yeah.
And honestly, it makes sense because it's so specific that probably no one would actually buy it. But a little tip, myself, I actually use a clear lens of goggles, like an old lens, that I just tape on the top and just maybe an extra inch, and that offers a lot more protection when it's raining. It's definitely not the most stylish solution, but it does help a lot for those long rainy days in the bike park. What is the difference between a moto helmet and a full face mountain bike helmet?
Yeah, so the main difference is the certification that they're certified to, whether it's the ASTM-DH certification or a moto certification. But I think there is a bit of a common misconception that a moto helmet just means that it's a safer helmet in general. When you actually look at the standards, the ASTM-DH standard, it's super similar impact speeds to what you have on the DOT standard in the US, but the actual threshold that you need to have impacts below is much higher on the moto standard. So essentially what that means is it's an easier standard to pass. So it's actually more difficult in the US to pass the ASTM-DH standard than a US moto standard. The one exception there, though, with those helmets is the moto standards do have the penetrator test, which is essentially like a sharp stake that would go down onto the helmet. I think that's really trying to replicate something like a foot peg. Yeah, or like a foot peg on a dirt bike or something, that if it rolled over on you.
And because a dirt bike is 100 kilos, 110 kilos, whereas a mountain bike is 15 to 25 kilo if
Yeah.
it's some type of e-bike.
Exactly. But for the stuff that I think people should be paying attention to for, like, let's say World Cup DH riders, it's those impact speeds. And yeah, as I said, it's very similar impact speeds between like a DOT certification and the ASTM DH, but the threshold to pass is actually higher. So these are, in my opinion, usually a safer helmet than what you would find with the ASTM. Or sorry, excuse me, the DOT.
Yeah, and did you test this helmet against moto helmets?
Yeah, we do a lot of internal testing, both to different standards, European moto standards as well, and then we also test against some different moto helmets as well, just trying to see how folks are handling those energy.
And to compare your helmet with other brands, do you just rely on the result from Virginia Tech, or do you do your own testing?
Yeah, so the results you can get from Virginia Tech is super limited. I mean, you on the website is the same info that I would get from them. So we try to do all of our testing on different stuff in-house so we can be super thorough and get some real data.
So you end up purchasing helmets from the competition and you pass them through the same test as your helmets to see how they compare and stack up.
Yeah, it gives a much better understanding of where things are at.
So that's a very good question. I know the answer to it, but is a heavier helmet safer?
Yeah, so that again, that's kind of one of those, it's a common misconception of heavier means safer. I don't think that's the case. There's a couple reasons why we try to actually make some of our helmets as light as possible. First and foremost, like with our full face, every incident or crash is unique, but a lot of times there's definitely cases where it's not a direct impact on the helmet. Think about, like, let's say a car crash where you have some sort of whiplash. In terms of a brain injury, you don't have to have that linear impact to create it. It's really what's happening between the brain and the skull and some of those materials tearing. So if you have something that's heavier and you do have a moment where your head really snaps or jerks, it's more mass that's going into that. So by having a lighter helmet, you're reducing the mass and the energy that's happening in those rotational forces. And then you also want to have kind of the softest material against your head, softest foam, so that can crumple and deform as much as possible and reduce the energies that the rider's actually seeing. So by having a, let's say, larger volume helmet with lower density foam, you are going to have a lighter helmet, but you're also going to have softer, foam that's going to crumple more easily in situations like that.
And it's probably also safer for your neck, since there is less weight, you're less likely to damage any ligaments in your neck from whiplash.
Yeah, same thing with like kind of a whiplash situation. Obviously having less mass is going to be beneficial for those situations.
And obviously having a lighter helmet definitely makes a difference on your riding. Not that much when you go downhill, unless you go and ride 25 minutes. But when you pedal up, and it's more and more common to pedal up with a full face helmet, especially on e-bikes, you definitely appreciate a helmet that's lighter.
Yeah, 100%.
So at Specialized and with other brands, more and more you see that yellow stickers that says MIPS. So what's MIPS?
Yeah, so MIPS makes what they call a low friction layer in between the rider and the helmet. So it's basically adding a slip plane to try to reduce some of those rotational forces. That's kind of hard to mentally picture of what that's actually doing. So I think it's actually better, let me grab this ball real quick. I think it's better to give an example of how we kind of pick up rotational forces, let's say in a crash or something like that. So yeah, you can do this at home too. If you grab a ball, something that has like visible lines on it or something. So if we were talking about just a direct linear impact, that would be going straight up and down. So if I bounce this up and down straight, the lines aren't going to move. It's going to come right back to me. If you do the same thing, you're pushing it straight, linear impact, but now we're at a diagonal angle, and I'm going to bounce past it to you. You'll see the rotational forces that the ball picks up, and it will start spinning.
Oh yeah.
So as soon as it hits the ground and comes off of it, yeah, it already starts spinning immediately. So that's really what the MIPS layer is there to help with, is try to scrub off some of those forces, and in that split second on impact, just try to reduce some of those rotational forces that's actually going to the brain.
So this question is for me. Why do I not ride more often with a full face helmet? That's a very good question. On the channel, you've seen me ride on the half-shelf helmets, some very gnarly feature for quite a few years now, and I want to make a conscious effort to ride my full face more often. In fact, I should be riding my full face almost all the time, except when I'm really going for a light pedal and I'm not doing anything that's remotely outside of my comfort zone. The reason why I started to ride that often with the half lead helmet, like the Tactic or the Ambush, for example, is because a lot of the riding I do is very slow and technical, and I feel like at slow speed, it's really important for me to have a good feeling of the space that's around me. With a half-shaft helmet, I feel like I see better everything that's around me. I can make better decisions. I feel the speed better, and I feel like I generally have a better understanding of how the bike feels, how to ride the feature, and I can hear better. And when riding those slabs, it's really important for me to obviously feel the grip of the tire, but also hear it. And that's one of the reasons why I never ride with music. It's because I want to hear the bike, I want to hear the ground. And even though full face helmet allows you to hear really well, which is why you got some vents here, for example, obviously you hear better when your ears are not covered at all. And so that's the main reason. And the second biggest reason is because I got so used to it that when doing a certain type of feature 100 times on a half lead helmet, when I go on a full face, it almost feels like a new feature, and suddenly I have to learn again to feel the speed and make sure that the way I approach the takeoff or the drop or whatever it is feels good, even though I've done it previous time with a different style of helmet. But nowadays, obviously, I understand the risk, and it's really important for me to be well protected, so I'm really making an effort to be riding the full face helmet more often. And you probably noticed on the channel a lot of my previous video I was riding my dissident helmet, and now with e-bikes, since they are getting so much more popular and I really enjoy riding my e-bike, you do so many more laps and you can get the same trail, you can ride it so many more times. You know the trail better, so you ride it essentially faster, but when you do make a mistake, well, you crash harder. So one of the reasons why I've been wearing the full face more often. And also even on the uphill, when you ride your e-bike uphill, it's very easy to go at 15, 20 or 25 kilometers an hour. And even though the uphill might not be super difficult, it's really easy to make a slight mistake, clip your pedal on the rock, lose your balance, and fall off the side of the trail. So I've really been making an effort, and you'll see some changes on the channel. Another question for me, but what do I personally look for in a helmet? Okay, 3, 2, 1. Another question for me, but what do I personally look for in a helmet? Well, we talk about it, fit is essential. Style is very important to me because, I'm being filmed all the time, so I want a helmet that looks good. Once again, I want to promote companies and brands that I will use as a customer, and I don't really want to promote a helmet that I don't think looks cool. It's part of my job to look good on the bike, but also look good next to the bike. So style is definitely important. In terms of protection, obviously I want the best. That's my hobby, but that's also my job. I ride a lot, so statistically I'm supposed to fall more often than someone that rides once a week or a couple times a month. So safety is key. It's not something that I can see like that other than going on the Virginia Tech website. But another thing I would say is, when looking for a helmet deal, one thing that was really important for me was to find a brand that did every single type of helmet, because I ride half lead helmet and full face helmet, even some road biking helmet. So to me, it's really important to have a brand that offers all the helmets that I will wear. You've got a lot of brands that do great half-shelf helmet, but they don't produce any full face helmet. So obviously for me that was also a parameter that I took in consideration. How tight should be your strap?
Yeah, so the strap, similar to what we discussed earlier, obviously you want that to be nice and centered under your ear and nice and snug. You definitely don't want it to be able to slip off of your chin, but you also don't want it to be suffocating you during a ride. So snug, but not uncomfortable, and just making sure that it's not going to slide off.
And for me, it's a little bit different. This is a tactic helmet. That's the helmet that I use the most when I'm filming with the GoPro. Because of the weight of the GoPro on the front, especially the GoPro Max, there's a lot of weight on the front, so the helmet naturally wants to move forward. So I tight the helmet a lot, but also the strap, I run it super tight just for the few seconds that I'm riding with the GoPro, and then I usually untight it a little bit for the uphill, so it's more comfortable. Another question I got was how I mount the GoPro. Well, chatting with Alex when the Dissident was being developed, one of the requests was to make sure that there was a spot to put the GoPro. The best angle is below the visor on any helmet. I think that's the most realistic. That's what World Cup racer use for course preview or to film their race run. It's out of the way. It doesn't affect visibility, and that's what provides the best footage. So that's why the visor has got that flat piece, so you can mount your GoPro easily. On the tactic, I use the tactic and the ambush equally. I will say I prefer the ambush. It is I guess fancier version of the tactic. The finition is a little bit better, but the tactic fits better with the GoPro, which is why I use the tactic when I'm filming with the GoPro, and when I'm just riding with my friends, I'll use the ambush. And we're talking about mounts. You told me you had made me a custom mount for.
Yeah, we do have a mount for you to try to go kind of basically substitute the latter half of the mouth port right there. So this guy just has a nice universal GoPro mount on it for you. So maybe that gives you a different angle to check out in terms of filming, but we can see how that goes for you.
I'll try. Is it something that customer could potentially purchase?
Not right now. Honestly, on a part like this, it's not super financially viable for us to produce something like that. It would probably be more expensive than the amount of people that are willing to buy it. But I hope in the future, something like this, we can just kind of release the CAD and folks can either have
so it is a file.
Yeah, a file of the part. And if you had a 3D printer, you could print it off yourself for something like this, or have a friend print it off for you for free, that kind of thing.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Basically give it away for free if someone's willing to pay to have it printed or print it themselves.
Since aerodynamic is very important now in World Cup downhill, since the tracks are so fast, do you use a wind tunnel at Specialized?
Yeah, we use the wind tunnel all the time. We're super lucky to have that resource essentially across the street. To your point, not only do we use it for all of our road helmets, but we also use it for mountain helmets, especially with the DH helmet with the World Cup team. And yeah, we do a ton of testing, not only on the helmet itself, but more importantly with the helmet on rider, on bike in the tunnel, to just give more holistic picture of what's going on.
Yeah, depending on their position.
Exactly, yeah.
That's awesome.
So super helpful for the team and just development with the helmets in general.
Last question, but one that's, I think, pretty important. I have a pretty good answer. Oh, sorry, 3, 2, 1, go. Last question for today, but why are helmets so expensive?
Yeah, it's a good question. And the nice thing is, you can get a helmet that is fully featured, that's expensive, and you pay for it, but you get some nice features. But you can find some really nice helmets that are much more affordable as well, especially like we talked about in terms of safety. If you check out some different models on Virginia Tech, within the top 20 helmets there that are all 5-star rated, you can definitely find some different helmets from $55 and up. So I think there you get the core features that you need from a safety perspective, but you don't get a lot of the adjustability or kind of fancier features that you get on the more expensive product.
Yeah, and for example, if we can compare, so that's the camber helmet, which is, I believe, $80, and this one is the ambush, which is $180.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you just get fancier features, obviously lighter weight, more ventilation, some different eyewear options there. You get much more adjustment as well with the webbing and the fit system. And those adjustments, they might not seem like much, but in terms of like we were talking about fitting eyewear like sunglasses, those adjustments can really help with that, where you're kind of fixed in with what you get with something that's a little bit more affordable. So really just kind of the fit and premium features is what makes the more expensive stuff pricier.
Well, I hope we answered your question. Thanks a lot for watching. Make sure you check out the link down below for your next specialized helmet. See you next week.